Welcome to today's English story. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Climb English so you can continue learning with us. Listening to stories in English is one of the best ways to improve your vocabulary and understanding. So sit back, relax, and let the story carry you into another life. My name is Emma. I am 37 years old. I live in a quiet coastal town where the air always smells of salt and the evenings are filled with the sound of waves. I share my home with my husband, Mark, who is 40, and together we have two children. Our son, James, is 12, and our daughter, Anna, is 9. To most people who pass by our house, we look like an ordinary, happy family. They see our smiles, our tidy little garden, and they imagine that everything is simple. But inside my heart, I know our story is more complicated than it seems. When I think back to the early years of our marriage, I remember mornings filled with laughter and calm. Mark would leave for work, and I would wave at him from the window, a cup of coffee still warm in my hands. We didn't have much money, but we had enough to live without worry. Our home was small, nothing grand, yet every room felt alive with warmth. I worked in a little flower shop in town. The fragrance of roses, tulips, and lilies stayed on my clothes long after I closed the door each evening. Sometimes Mark would pass by the shop just to see me. He would smile as I wrapped a single daisy for him to take home, and I would laugh, pretending to charge him for it. On weekends, we walked with the children to the park, bought ice cream, and sometimes treated ourselves to a movie. Life felt gentle, like a song I believed would never end. I truly thought those simple, happy days would last forever. Everything began to change when the flower shop hired a new manager, a woman named Mrs. Carter. From her very first day, I could feel her eyes searching for my mistakes. If I arrived a few minutes late because the bus was delayed, she would make a point of announcing it loudly as if I had committed a terrible crime. If I arranged the flowers with care, she would still find fault in the way the petals faced or how the ribbons were tied. I tried harder each day, hoping she would notice my effort, but nothing seemed to please her. One morning, in front of a line of customers, she raised her voice and said I was too slow, that I was wasting people's time. My hands trembled so much that I dropped a bouquet on the floor. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table and told Mark everything. He held my hand and whispered that I had done the right thing by leaving. For a moment, I felt safe and loved. He promised that something better would come, that I should take my time and not worry. And for a little while, I believed him. At first, Mark's kindness stayed with me. He came home after long days at work and told me not to rush, that a new job would appear when the time was right. But slowly his words began to change. One evening, he tossed his wallet on the table and sighed heavily. "Emma, you're home all day. I can't keep paying for everything by myself." His voice was sharper than I had ever heard it before, and it cut through me like glass. I tried to remind him of all I did at home, how I cared for the children, kept the house clean, cooked meals, and helped my parents whenever I could, but he only shook his head. He no longer saw those things as enough. Nights grew colder between us. We argued over bills, over groceries, over little things that once never mattered. I dreamed of having another child, one last baby to fill our home with laughter and love. When I finally gathered the courage to share this with Mark, hoping he might see the same picture in his mind, his reaction was like a door slamming shut. He stared at me as if I had said something foolish. His voice rose, sharp and angry, telling me I was selfish, that I didn't care about how hard he worked or how heavy the bills felt on his shoulders. His words stung, but what hurt more was the silence that followed. I thought at least my children would understand, that they would see the hope in my heart, But one evening, James looked down at his shoes and said softly, "Mom, we're not rich. It doesn't feel right when you talk about another baby." His words sink deep into me, heavier than any stone. Even my mother-in-law joined the chorus of disapproval. She reminded me that children grow quickly, that soon mine would leave for their own lives, and starting over with bottles and sleepless nights made no sense. I nodded politely, but inside I was screaming. Each day I poured myself into caring for my family, cooking, cleaning, folding laundry, helping with homework, even tending to my parents' garden. Yet no one seemed to notice. No one said thank you. I wore old clothes, spent nothing on myself, and kept my small joys hidden away like secrets. The more I gave, the more invisible I became, and my dream of another child felt like a fragile flame flickering against the wind. One morning, I woke up and felt as though my body were made of stone. My chest was heavy, my head throbbed, and every sound in the house seemed too sharp to bear. From the kitchen, Mark's voice called out, asking where his shirt was, where his lunch was, and I pulled the blanket over my ears just to escape the noise. When the children left for school, I sat on the cold kitchen floor and cried until my body shook. The tears came without end, and a single thought circled in my mind. Why am I living like this? And why does no one see me? That day, I did nothing. I didn't cook, I didn't clean, I couldn't lift myself from the weight pressing down inside me. When Mark came home, he looked at the untouched dishes and asked what had I done all day. I could barely whisper. I tried to breathe. He didn't understand. That night, when everyone was asleep, I stepped out onto the balcony. The sky stretched above me, scattered with stars, the air cool against my face. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to look up instead of down. Somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that maybe there was still light left for me. Maybe I wasn't finished yet. I stood there in silence, staring into the night, holding onto that fragile thought like a lifeline. The next morning, I opened the computer and began searching for jobs. My hands trembled as I typed, but I pressed forward, sending emails to shops, cafes, and small offices. For weeks, nothing came back except polite rejections. Still, I refused to stop. Each message I sent felt like a step toward a version of myself I had almost forgotten. Mark seemed surprised when he saw me at the desk, focused and determined. "Good," he said simply. "I hope you find something soon." His words were plain, but inside me, they lit a spark. I went to interviews, my heart racing each time. One manager smiled, but said there was no space for me yet. Another told me to come back the following week, that maybe there would be an opening. It wasn't a promise, but it was enough to give me hope. That evening, I sat with James and Anna, and I told them that I still carried my dream of another baby, but what I wanted most was to feel useful, to stand on my own feet again. They looked at me with tender eyes and said, "We just want you to be happy, Mom." Their words were like a soft blanket over my tired heart, giving me the strength to keep moving forward. One morning, the phone rang, and the voice on the other end said the words I had been waiting to hear. "Emma, we would like to hire you." My hands shook as I held the receiver, and when I told Mark, a smile spread across his face, the first real smile I had seen in months. "I'm proud of you," he said softly, and for the first time in a long while, I believed him. The first weeks were difficult. I woke up before sunrise to prepare breakfast, walked quickly to work, and still hurried home in the evening to cook dinner and help with homework. My body was tired, but my spirit was alive again. Earning my own money filled me with a sense of dignity I had almost forgotten. I loved the rhythm of work, the chance to meet new people, and the quiet pride of placing my own earnings into my purse. Slowly, the atmosphere at home began to change. Mark's words softened, his voice no longer sharp with impatience. The children noticed too, helping with small chores, offering to set the table or fold laundry.
Our house felt lighter, warmer, as if the walls themselves could breathe again. I still held on to my dream of another baby, but now I knew I didn't need it to prove my worth. I had found a different kind of strength, one that came from standing on my own feet and knowing I could take care of both my family and myself. Life will never be simple, and I no longer expect it to be. But through all the storms I have walked, I have learned something that will stay with me forever. When you have your own strength, people look at you differently. When you can stand on your own, even those who once doubted you begin to show respect. For so long, I gave everything to others and left nothing for myself, believing that love alone was enough. But love without respect can fade, and kindness without independence can be forgotten.
Now I know that a woman must always keep something for herself. A little piece of freedom, a little piece of security, because you never know when life will demand it. I am still a wife, still a mother, still the same person who once dreamed of another baby. But I am also Emma, a woman who found her strength again, who discovered that happiness begins not with others, but within. If my story touched you, if it helped you listen and learn, then remember to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Climb English for more stories. Together we will keep climbing, one word, one lesson, one story at a time.